Mr. Lamy, as you well know, we're in the midst of a serious economic crisis at the moment. Can you share with us your views on the impacts we've seen thus far, both on trade flows and on trade policy?
Well, our numbers show that the impact of this crisis on trade has been terrible. Our own forecast for this year is minus 10% in volume, which is minus 14 for developed, minus 7 for developing, which is a lot, especially for developing countries whose growth depends more on trade than for developed countries. So it's a huge impact, not at this stage as a result of trade policies. We've had a bit of protectionist fermentation here and there, but for the moment, it hasn't significantly impacted trade. What has impacted trade is shrinking of demand and supply, and trade is the transmission belt between supply and demand, plus quite a bit of trade finance drying up.
The numbers released at the OECD this morning are even worse than that, in fact. In volume terms, at least, we're looking at trade decline of about 16% this year. Turning to protectionist threats or concerns, you're remaining vigilant, you're worried, you're relaxed. What's your view on how much government should be concerned about continuing pressure for protectionism?
Well, the truth is that we're not relaxed at all. We know by experience that economic hardship creates social disruptions, and that social disruptions create political pressure for protection. And we know by experience that one of the versions of protection is trade protectionism. Now, that's what the experience tells us. What the experience also tells us is that trade protectionism doesn't protect. If I start protecting my imports, you're going to start protect your imports, and it just happens that your imports are my exports. So we know it doesn't work, but inevitably the pressure is there. And what we have to do is contain this pressure, thanks to the system of disciplines which has been built during 60 years in order to avoid the repetition of what happened in the 1930s, and that creates a sort of low risk of high protectionism, but there is a high risk of low protectionism. And that's something which we have to care about and which we are monitoring. And, you know, peer pressure can only work on the basis of transparency, which is a business on which WTO and OECD we are together.
That's exactly right. Mr. Lamy, thank you so much.